make sure that the meeting that he requests takes place, so we can reassure that we are committed to supporting life-saving and life-improving research and doing all we can to improve how we prevent, detect, manage and treat cancer. Thank you.
Andrew Peck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like many people in Peterborough, I am passionate about tackling low pay and insecure work.
Her question wasn't complicated. She asked whether hospices, particularly children's hospices, would be exempt from Labour's jobs tax. But instead of giving a clear answer, Keir Starmer dodged it, refusing to address the real issue. This is about basic fairness. Charities and hospices are not businesses. They are essential services that provide care for those at the end of their lives, including terminally ill children. Yet under Labour's tax plans, they will be treated just like any for-preneur corporation, forced to pay additional employment costs that could cripple their already limited budgets. Badenoch also exposed the hypocrisy within Labour's own ranks. Even Labour MPs understand the human cost of this tax, yet Starmer refuses to acknowledge it. The fact that his own party members are uneasy about this policy should be a wake-up call. This isn't just a political debate, it's a matter of life and death for those who rely on hospices for care. Starmer's refusal to provide a direct answer tells the public everything they need to know. Labour is more interested in pushing through tax increases than in protecting essential services. The next question is, how long will Labour continue to ignore the damage their policies are causing before they are forced to take responsibility?
Especially for young people. Next month, many of my constituents will receive a welcome boost in their pay packets due to the increase in the national minimum wage. Can I thank the Prime Minister for ignoring the voices on the opposite benches who continue to oppose our plans to make work pay? And can I urge him to...
Keir Starmer had one job: to answer a simple question about whether hospices would be exempt from his jobs tax. Instead, he dodged it completely and went into full political deflection mode, trying to turn the conversation into an attack on past economic policies rather than addressing the issue at hand. Rather than giving a clear, direct answer, Starmer threw out random figures about previous investments, as if mentioning past funding somehow justifies taxing hospices in the future. It was the classic political manoeuvre. When you don't want to answer a tough question, bury it under a pile of unrelated statistics. This isn't about what the government did in the past. It's about what Labour is doing right now. And what they are doing is placing unnecessary financial pressure on services that provide end-of-life care to children and adults who need it most. The most revealing part of Starmer's response wasn't even the lack of an answer, it was the arrogance of his deflection. Instead of engaging in a real discussion about why hospices should be protected, he smugly told his opponent to apologise. This wasn't just a weak response, it was a tone-deaf one. Instead of showing leadership, Starmer dismissed a serious concern with political grandstanding. Instead of proving he understands the importance of supporting hospices, he turned it into a cheap point-scoring moment.
In delivering our plan for change for working people.
Starmer had tried to deflect from the fact that he had no real response by throwing out funding figures and demanding an apology. Instead of answering whether hospices would be exempt from the jobs tax, he hid behind past budgets and attacked the previous government. But Badenoch wasn't having any of it. Her comeback was more than just a quick-witted remark, it was a reminder of how weak and evasive Starmer really is. Starmer acts like he's in control, but this exchange showed the truth: he can't handle tough questions. Instead of owning up to Labour's decision to tax hospices, he tried to dodge responsibility. But as Prime Minister, his job is to provide answers, not to hide behind rehearsed political attacks. Badenoch's reply was a clear message. If Starmer doesn't want to do his job and answer questions, maybe he should step aside for someone who will. But instead of proving he had a solid plan, Starmer just looked weak. He was called out in real time, and he had nothing to fire back with.
14 years of absolute failure. What do? Interest rates 11%. Massive 22 million black hole in the economy. They crashed the economy. We're rebuilding Britain.
Mr. Speaker, he knows why we're having an emergency budget, because since the last one,
During the once-in-a-Parliament budget, the Chancellor promised that there would be no extension of the freeze on income tax thresholds, a pledge meant to reassure taxpayers that Labour would not sneak in tax hikes through fiscal drag. Now, Badenoch is demanding a straight answer. Will the Prime Minister guarantee that this commitment still stands, or will Labour backtrack and quietly extend the freeze, forcing millions to pay more tax? At first glance, this might seem like just another debate about tax policy, but it's far more than that. This is about trust and credibility. Labour's Chancellor made a promise that this freeze would not be extended, meaning that millions of workers expected to see some relief after years of inflation and stagnant wages. If Starmer refuses to reaffirm this commitment, it will signal to the public that Labour cannot be trusted on tax policy and that a hidden tax rise is coming. And this is not just about the numbers. This is about the working people who have been struggling under the burden of high taxes and rising costs of living. A refusal to answer this question will confirm fears that Labour's economic plan is nothing more than more stealth taxation.
He hasn't made these provisions. He keeps talking about budget benefits. Unemployment is not a benefit. Businesses closing are not benefits. I asked him whether he would exempt hospices, even children's hospices, from the jobs tax. He did not answer that question. His MPs know that this could affect end-of-life care. So I will ask the same question again. Will he exempt hospices from paying his jobs tax?
Mr. Speaker, we've already invested £100 million for adult and children's hospices, an additional £26 million in funding.
Lee Anderson asks a very simple, direct question, one that many Britons have been wondering. If we became net zero tomorrow, by how much would it reduce the global temperature? It wasn't a trick question, it wasn't loaded with political jargon, it was a straightforward request for a clear, measurable answer, one that should be easy for a government committed to net zero to provide. But once again, Keir Starmer dodged the question. Instead of answering how much of an impact net zero would actually have on the climate, he pivoted to empty political rhetoric, personal attacks, and vague economic promises. Rather than explaining how Britain's massive investments in net zero policies would affect global temperatures, Starmer went on a tangent about growth, jobs, and the economy. And when that didn't seem to be enough, he resorted to attacking Anderson directly, throwing in a personal jab about leadership and party size. The reason is obvious. He doesn't have an answer that sounds good to the public. If Starmer were to actually answer Anderson's question with real numbers, the truth would be devastating for his net zero agenda. The reality is, even if the UK went fully net zero overnight, the actual reduction in global temperatures would be almost negligible. The UK contributes just over 1% of the world's emissions, meaning that even the most extreme, costly climate policies would have little measurable impact on global temperatures. The UK is one of the most aggressive countries in the world when it comes to implementing net zero policies, yet countries like China, India, and the United States continue to massively increase emissions with little restriction. If net zero is about actually reducing global temperatures, then why are British citizens and businesses being forced to bear the economic burden, while the biggest polluters continue as usual? Anderson's question was about accountability. He was asking for proof that these sacrifices are actually making a meaningful difference. But instead of giving facts, Starmer dodged, deflected, and attacked. Until Starmer is willing to give an honest, data-backed response, the British public has every reason to remain sceptical of net zero policies that cost them more, restrict their freedoms, and hurt industries, without delivering clear results.